This winter, take a steakcation at Outback Steakhouse. Enjoy delicious Canberra chopped steak and a red wine glaze. Savour a flavourful bloomin' French onion sirloin. Or sink your teeth into a sizzling 18-ounce bone-in ribeye with signature spices. It's better than a staycation at home.
Dad, I thought we were taking a steakcation, not a staycation!
Enjoy your steakcation for a limited time at Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us on this Friday, January 17th, 2025. This weekend, you can make the case, is the best football weekend of the year, of the season. You have the best teams. You've got 2 games on Saturday. You've got 2 games on Sunday. I say it's better than the championship weekend next week, and I think it's better than the Super Bowl. 4 outstanding games, so much on the line, and we'll certainly break that down for you. But we did want to start with a story that continues to dominate the news front here in New York, and that's the Pete Alonso situation. So it looks like the Mets are essentially done with Alonso. And the word is that the last offer they made was 3 years at $68 million or $70 million. Now, I am a big proponent that they should dig in and offer him what they think he's worth. I thought that 68 to 70 for 3 years a little light. They probably could have gone up to 75, but I can't take issue with them. What I do take issue with, and I wonder what you're thinking as well, please chime in at 1-800-919-3776. You know, I was in the car after my show yesterday listening to Don and Han, and I kept hearing people call, I mean, can't the Mets stretch it a little bit? You know, he's a homegrown guy. Don't they owe it to him? And the more I heard people call in and say that, the more perplexed I got. Doesn't that loyalty go both ways? Didn't the Mets, when Billy Epler was a GM, offer him 7 years at 158? Didn't they? Why couldn't he have stretched it? If he loved the Mets so much, and I think he does, why couldn't he stretch it? Now, I know what your answer is going to be. You're more than welcome to answer this, but I'll rebut it. Well, it's a business. This is how he earns his money. It's a business for the Mets, too. And what I think is happening with Met fans is that they know their owner is fabulously rich. At last count, $20 to $22 billion personal wealth. Outstanding. Really something else. And they think that money is no object. But when you're running a business, you set tabs, you set limits. This is what we're going to give somebody. This is what we think he's worth. This is what we'll push it to. So who made the mistake here? The Mets or Pete Alonso? 7 years, 158. So he didn't take that. And then last year he made 20. So essentially, in order for him to make up what he turned down, he'd have to get 6 years, 138. And the Mets are not doing that. Now, if the Blue Jays want to do it, God bless them. And you know why the Blue Jays might do it? And you know why Scott Boras usually succeeds in these endeavors? There's always a team. And there's always an owner that's desperate. The Blue Jays are desperate. They can't get anybody to take their money. Anybody. Corbin Burns, no. Couldn't do it. Soto, no. Wouldn't do it. And I've heard from very connected people that the Blue Jays were willing to pay anything to get Soto. They were willing to top the Mets offer. players would prefer not to play where they have to cross customs every single road trip. I know that sounds like so insignificant for the average person. So what, going through customs? It's a pain. It's a pain. And when you have to do it every single road trip, in and out, it's a lot. It adds hours upon hours each time to your trip. And then there's the difference in the money. Toronto's a great city. I love Toronto. It's one of my favorite cities, very cosmopolitan. It's like America with a European feel to it, if that makes sense. It's terrific. It's clean. It's bustling. The stadium is great. They poured $400 million into that stadium. And no one wants to play there. So maybe that is the play for Pete Alonso. Maybe that's the play for Boris to get some of the money back. Maybe Toronto will give him $30 million a year. But I ask you this, and I ask anybody this when they're represented by an agent. Is that going to make you the happiest, Pete? Don't you really want to play for the Mets? Don't you really want to break Strawberry's home run record? Don't you really want your number up on the facade out in left field? Don't you? What becomes of you when you play for Toronto? They have not won a playoff series in 9 years. 9 years. And that's your pivot. He is long going to rue the day he said, nah, I'm good, to 7 years, 158. Will he top the Mets 3 years, 68, 70 million? I think he will. But at what price? But please don't tell me the Mets should stretch a little bit more for Pete Alonso. He didn't stretch a little bit less for the Mets. He didn't. And it's not like he's asking for 3 years, 75. He probably wants over $30 million. And he probably wants opt-outs after each of the first 2 years. Loyalty goes both ways, everybody. Really does. Goes both ways. So I'm not going to kill the Mets on this one. We'll talk to John Heyman at 1:30, see what info he has. But I will tell you this. On the flip side, if the Mets pivot is Jesse Winker, who has reportedly signed a $7.5 million one-year deal that could go up to $9 million. Nice player. Really good numbers with the Nationals. Really not great numbers with the Mets in the second half, but outstanding numbers in the postseason. If the Mets pivot is Winker, and then a combination thereof of moving Vientos to first, and maybe having Beatty try another time at third, or Mauricio or Acuna, I don't think that's enough. Have you really improved by getting Soto and taking away Alonso and not bringing in somebody big time? Now, I know everybody wants to give their kids a chance, and that's pretty much the working framework that David Stearns uses. Supplement with youth, bring up people through the minors, get a bargain here or there, make the big expenditure. And in truth be told, and I said this yesterday talking with Buster Only, I truly believe that if left to their own devices, there is no way, I repeat, no way, that David Stearns or Brian Cashman with the Yankees were willing to give Soto the money that he got. And you know why? Because that's an owner's contract. That's an ego contract. And that's a legacy contract. That might not be a great contract for the long term. But for the right now, when you're a $68 million a 68-year-old billionaire, you want to make that deal. You want to get that championship if you're Steve Cohen. And Hal Steinbrenner, realizing the value of an all-time star, you stretched more than you wanted to. But GMs don't like those deals. So Cohen probably told Stearns, I'm handling this. And Stearns said, well, I'm handling Alonso. So Alonso doesn't get here. I would think there's got to be more to this. Now, the interesting thing that was brought up by Andy Martino, who was with us the other day, that if the Blue Jays actually sign Pete Alonso, when the Mets would enhance their chances of trading for Vlad Guerrero. And Guerrero said, well, not necessarily, because the word out of Toronto is that if Pete Alonso becomes a first baseman, Vlad Guerrero would shift to third, where he wants to play, where he started, where he's more comfortable. He switched to third because of a logjam. Or he switched to first because of a logjam. He switched away from third because of that. He'd gladly go back. And you know what? Last year of his contract, I think third basemen make more money than first basemen. So he probably sees that too. One other thing. So Guerrero has been offered a contract of about $350 million by the Blue Jays and turned it down. And he has set the beginning of spring training in Dunedin for the Blue Jays as the deadline. Either signs a contract or he's going to become a free agent. And the word is that he's looking for $400 million. Now, he's not a perfect player, despite what you hear, and obviously he's the object of everybody's affection now. Not a perfect player. He's had bad years. He's had years where he's come into camp out of shape. Check out 2 years ago. Very pedestrian player. Last year, great player. But if the price of doing business on a Vlad Guerrero is, and this is a citizen of Toronto, a citizen of Canada. He's a Canadian citizen because he was born when his dad played for the Montreal Expos. Born in Canada. If that's the price of doing business, and you cannot get anybody else to take your money, and you know that this guy likes playing in Toronto, if the cost is over $400 million, why don't you just do it? You're getting a 26-year-old player. Guerrero is probably the one player that was the most affected by the Soto signing because his price went up. Not up to the stratosphere of Juan Soto, but it went up. So what are the Blue Jays doing? What games are they playing? If he makes an outrageous demand, and you know that when free agency happens, it might get accepted. Somebody might do it. Why don't you do it? You're the team that can't keep players. There's a homegrown Blue Jay, a Canadian citizen, who enjoys it there, wants to be there, and if it takes $400 million, you mean the Rodgers family can't afford $400 million? They own all of cable in the entire country. They're nowhere near any of the tax thresholds. So what are we doing? None of it makes sense. And because of their unwillingness to spend $400 to $450 million on Guerrero, that might free up a lifeline for Boris to get Alonso the contract that no team in their right mind would give a 30-year-old first baseman. Who's limited. Not a great defender, clogs up the bases. He's a great home run hitter whose numbers have trended downward over the last couple of years. If he didn't hit that home run off of Devin Williams, all you Met fans that are screaming about you got to do anything to keep him, you would not be screaming that much. He had a really good postseason after a really bad season. But he looked lost in that series before the home run against Williams. It changed the trajectory, I believe, not of the Mets, to their credit, but of the fans' affection. Let's go to the phones. 1-800-919-3776, 1-800-919-3776. We start off with Jimmy in Staten Island. Jimmy, what's up, babe?
Mike, how are you?
I'm good. You?
Mike, good. You hit the nail on the head. He showed his loyalty the second he signed Scott Boras. That's when he showed his loyalty. So the Mets went out of their way 2 years ago to give him a decent deal. He thinks he's Aaron Judge. He's not. I'm sorry. And you're right. I don't know if the Mets are going to be better without him this year, but I ain't sticking myself with this guy for the next 4, 5, 6 years when he's going to decline like the way he's declining. I'll take the money they were going to give him. I go out and get a reliever, another solid pitcher if they could find a starter, and go about it that way, and then worry about the trade deadline. I'm not sticking myself with this guy. And there's no loyalty in either way. You're absolutely right, and I'm glad the way the Mets have finally realized not to be so loyal if it's going to hurt the team in the long run.
Well said, Jimmy. I mean, I concur with everything that you just said. You can only go so far with loyalty. Look how loyal the Yankees were to Juan Soto, right? They really were. Bent over backwards for him. The fans couldn't have shown him more love. And then what did he do? I'll tell you what he did. He took the most money, which is what he should have done. So everybody talks about loyalty. The team should be more loyal to the player. It doesn't work the other way, does it? It doesn't work the other way. Odd, isn't it? So you want the owners to bend over backwards, but not the players. Not the players. And occasionally a player will show loyalty. Aaron Judge showed loyalty. Could have gotten more money from the Padres. Could have gotten more money from the Giants. But he told Hal Steinbrenner, if you give me that 9th year, I'm coming back. And he did. And I told this to Buster Only yesterday. Think about this, everybody. 9 years. $360 million. Do you realize that when that deal took place, we all gasped, oh my God, it's now a bargain. It's a bargain. $40 million a year compared to what Soto was making with the Mets. And I know people don't want to hear this, and the only side of the argument that you have is this: age. Aaron Judge is a better player than Juan Soto in every way, shape, and form. There's no denying. Every way, shape, and form. Power hitter, average hitter, base runner, fielder, every way, shape, and form. But it's all about timing. Judge went to college, which means that he got a later start on his pro career, which means he got a later start on his free agency. So he became a free agent at a later age. Soto's big bargaining chip was that he's this otherworldly player, which he is, and he became a free agent at 26. Judge didn't have that luxury. Better player, though. That's why I think that deal is going to age better for the Yankees than the deal will for the Mets. Let's go to Joe in West Harrison.
Hey, Mike. Good afternoon. How are you today?
Good, Joe. What's up?
Hope to see you down in the spring training this year. Maybe me and you meet up at my brother Luigi's restaurant. It'd be great to see you, finally.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so I just want to get back to that previous caller with the Scott Boras thing. And first, we make a great point as far as the age with Aaron and Soto. But Soto has been a little bit more clutch, but no question I would be paying more for Judge. And I think Judge is a great representative of the sport anyway, to be honest with you. He's a true Yankee, like Jeter and like the predecessor besides. But so this guy is saying because a 30-year-old man who knows he can't maybe get many more contracts, hire Scott Boras, which we all do not like, to take care of his and his family. All of a sudden, he's not a true Met. Some of these calls just I don't know how you feel about that, Mike. But I mean, if a man has his right to make as much money as he can in the sport that he's not going to last long with, Mike, and I don't know what your thoughts are with that.
Well, here's what I say, Joe. I've always been a proponent, and that's why I'm the one guy who didn't come down on Soto for leaving. He had the right to take the most money, and Alonso has the right to aim for the sky. But when it's not there, you look dumb. You can aim for the sky. Good for you. Try to get as much money as you can. This is your one chance at the bag. But if you miscalculate and the bag's not there, then what happens? You expect the Mets to make up for your bad judgment? You turned down 7 at 158. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get anywhere close to that. So I'm not blaming Alonso. But what I am blaming is the fans that say, well, the Mets should step up and give more because he's a homegrown Met. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You got to do what you look at the valuation within your organization of the player. And the Mets don't think he's worth more than $22 or $23 million a year. Live with it. Live with it. I would probably value him at $25 million a year. But if they think it's 22 to 23, then it's 22 to 23. Period. This is not knocking Alonso for going for the gold. It's knocking Alonso for making a bad error in judgment. And it's knocking the Met fans for putting the onus on the Mets. Because what I'm saying is you want the Mets to be loyal to the homegrown guy, but you don't want Alonso to be loyal to the Mets and take a little less to stay with the Mets. And I'm not saying he should, but loyalty runs both ways. That's all I'm trying to put across. Go to John in Hoboken.
Hi, Mr. K. How are you today, my friend?
Good, John, and you?
Good. Living the dream.
Good.
So I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but let's just pick out a scenario for Alonso.
Okay.
The game has changed. You know what the battlefield is. It's 3 years. You're not too far from how far you can get him. Alonso, forget loyalty, forget Boris, forget all the things that make negotiation hard. You know what his floor is, and it's probably better or close to as good as any other option where you don't have him. Do you think maybe hitting in front of Soto, he'll get so many fewer of those low and outside sliders that he fishes for? He plays 162 games. Maybe the ceiling, that possible probability, is more likely for the ceiling than the floor. So if it's 75 over 72, it's more like look at the big picture instead of what the individual is, because he's never had anybody behind him.
Well, I don't think Soto would hit behind him. I think that Alonso would hit behind Soto. Soto's the one that you give the protection. That's why Judge hit third and Soto hit second. That's why Soto had as great a year as he did in terms of home runs. He never hit that many home runs because he got more pitches to hit because he had the great Aaron Judge behind him. Right now, the Met lineup doesn't give him that protection. I would agree with you with one thing, John. If the walking away point is $75 million and the Mets are at 70, then I think that's silly. But I don't think it's that close. I think Alonso probably wants $30 million a year. And the Mets say no. That's too much of a hill to climb. So they want 90 for 3, and the Mets are at 70 for 3, and the Mets don't want to go up the extra 20. I get it. And I get what Alonso wants. But what you want and what's realistic, two different things. Bobby in Belmore.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good, Bobby. What's up?
Listen, Soto's not. Judge is not better than Soto in the postseason. The Dodgers and the Astros, two big series. He went 2 for 28, Judge, before he had that opener and he had a couple of hits. So I understand. 360 to 800 is a big. I understand that's ridiculous, but you can't really say that until Judge earns his money in the postseason. You really can't really claim that. And as far as Alonso's concerned,
I didn't claim that though.
Oh,
that's not what I claimed. I just said he's a better player than Soto.
Well, not in the postseason, though, Mike.
Okay, but there's 162 games other than the postseason. Everybody forgets that. If you don't have a great regular season, you don't get to the postseason.
I know, but if he wants to become a Yankee great, he's got to start producing in the postseason. You even know that. But let me get to Alonso. To me, when the Mets had that big winning streak, Alonso did in the country was doing nothing. Those 34 home runs are the misnomer. He got a lot
wait a second, Bobby. So you're saying Judge's regular season doesn't count, but Alonso's does. Alonso was a beast in the postseason for the Mets. So what matters to you?
Well, yeah, but as far as for the Mets concerned, paying him, he's not as good as.
Bobby, you're not making sense. You're knocking Judge for not hitting in the postseason. Okay, fair. And you're saying like the 58 home runs during the regular season. So what? Like another caller said the other day. Okay, if that's your mindset, I think you're wrong, but cool. Now you're saying that Alonso's not clutch. He only had 34 home runs in the regular season, but you're conveniently forgetting that the home run off Williams changes the whole perspective on the season. If they get knocked out by Milwaukee, are we looking at that season as a great accomplishment? They didn't get to the NLCS without that home run. And then after that home run, he hit three more after that. So what is important to you? I think everything is important. But for those that dismiss Judge because he hasn't well in the postseason. Listen, I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig here. Judge's home run against Cleveland and Clase was a humongous home run. And then in the fifth game, the elimination game, you can't get over the fact that he dropped the ball in center field. That happens. It probably never happened again in his career. He also had 2 walks, a double, and a home run. So everybody has to take a deep breath. I would take Judge 100 years out of 100 years. And I take my chances with him one day having a great postseason, just like Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez was dreadful after Game 3 of 2004. From that point until 2009, he was about as bad a postseason player as you ever have. And in 2009, single-handedly carried the Yankees to a world championship. So you all want to get down on Judge. That seems to be the new de rigueur thing. Good. Have your fun. I'll take him every day. The player that he is, the leader he is, the representative that he is. And you're looking at the overall numbers, and you're not looking at important happenstances that happen in that postseason. The Clase home run and the 2 hits and the elimination game. Please stop. You're acting like he's the worst player of all time. You're being moronic. John Heyman's going to join us in just a moment, so you definitely want to be here for that. He covers baseball for the New York Post. Hey, if you're able, please help people affected by the California wildfires in 2025. Donate at redcross.org/ESPN to help the Red Cross respond and help people recover. Heyman's next, right here on 880 ESPN.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
TaxAct knows you probably don't need help filing taxes. But if you get stuck, we have live experts you can talk to. And who knows, you could hit it off and become long-term tax friends, staying up late at night, talking about deductions, refunds, personal exemptions. Heck, you could even fall in love and create a little dependent of your own one day. Or they could just answer your filing questions. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Michael K. Show. We're talking the Pete Alonso situation, and from all accounts, it looks like his days with the Mets might indeed be over. Here's our good friend John Heyman, covers baseball for the New York Post, and he's been on top of this for a while, and he's nice enough to join us here on the show. Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Michael? It's good to be with you.
Good to have you here. I'm wondering that the numbers that we see coming out, 68 for 3, 70 for 3, is that really where the Mets are with Alonso?
Yeah, I can't confirm the numbers. Joel Sherman obviously had that number in the Post. I don't know where he got it. I will say this. It does feel like the Mets won this negotiation, whether it's 70, 80, whatever it was. They got him to agree to a 3-year deal. A guy who's hit the most home runs in the National League since he come in 6 years ago. And to me, it's a waste. If you win the negotiation, then you should sign the player, right? I mean, it looks like even if those numbers aren't exactly right, and Joel's obviously an excellent reporter, but even if they're not exactly right, we know it's not a huge deal for Alonso, right? It's like, that those numbers are less than 10% of what Soto got. And I get he's not Soto. I get that, but they won the negotiation. But that becomes pointless if you don't actually sign the player.
But do you think they won the negotiation, or does Alonso's side want like over $30 million a year for 3 years?
I mean, my guess would be that the 30 a year would get it done. I don't know that as a fact. If you have opt-outs, they certainly have been amenable to a 3-year deal. I mean, I don't think they would be crazy and think that he's a $40 million player at this point. But, I mean, certainly the first year salary is a big deal when you have an opt-out after that first year. So, maybe they want it a little bit front-loaded, but I would think at 30 a year, and again, I don't know what his conversations are like with Toronto and the Angels and San Francisco, anyone else he may be talking to. I would think that gets it done with the Mets. He certainly seems like he would like to return if he could, but at this point, I mean, it doesn't appear that he'll be able to return with his head held high, right? I mean, you got to save face to some degree. I mean, to get him to return, you'd have to make it look a little bit better for him at this point, even if those numbers aren't exactly right. Again, I don't know the exact numbers. It's not going to be anything close to what he was looking for or what he was offered in the summer of 2022.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think he regrets turning down the 158? Because no matter where he goes, I don't think it's going to come close to that in the total number.
Well, we'll see what the final total is. Your idea of 3 for $90 with opt-outs, there is something to recommend that if you really want to bet on yourself. I mean, obviously we know Snell did that, and then the next year signed for $182 million. Chapman did that, then the next year signed for $151 million. So if he does get 3 for $90 with opt-outs, that may turn out better. But, I mean, most players would prefer that the longer deal be set where you are and know exactly what you're going to be getting. And so, I mean, does he regret it? I don't know. We'd have to ask him. But, I'm sure that thought has creeped into his mind, I'm sure.
The only way I think he gets done, and this is just from the outside view at 30,000 feet, is if Cohen steps in. If somehow, they pull at the heartstrings that this is a homegrown Met, the Met fans love him. And it seems as if Cohen is letting David Stearns do the ultimate negotiating here, and Stearns doesn't want to give that much money to a 30-year-old corner infielder. Am I reading it right?
No, I think you're reading it exactly right. Obviously, Cohen was very involved in the Soto negotiations, hosted him at his home in Beverly Hills, hosted him again at his home in Boca Raton. He made that his thing to get Soto done, and certainly Stearns was involved, but that was clearly a Steve Cohen deal. After that, and look, I mean, David Stearns did a fantastic job his first year. Nobody thought they were a playoff team. He thought they were a playoff team. He said that out loud in spring training, and they were not just a playoff team. They were a team that got to the LCS. All of his bigger moves, and he didn't have any really huge moves. Cohen had invested $1 billion in players previous to Stearns coming in. Stearns spent less than $100 million and turned them into a very viable contender in 1 year. So I get it. You want to give him leeway, but I do think, obviously, Steve Cohen is an involved owner generally, and, that is the one thing that probably could save this. Stearns is an analytics guy, went to Harvard, and he's got his calculations, and he takes a very cool, calculated approach to the negotiation. But Steve Cohen may be listening to the fans, seeing some of the criticism, and maybe he will jump in. That's why we're not going to write this off completely. It certainly looks unlikely at this moment, but I wouldn't write it off 100% because, we know that last year Steve Cohen stepped out and decided, you know what, we could use J.D. Martinez, and he did that deal, and that's happened on a few occasions at this point.
Did you know, John, I mean, we've known each other a long time. Did you know that I went to Harvard?
You could have gone to Harvard.
No. I walked around it. I walked around it. I didn't go actually to classes, but I did go to see it.
Is this like when you told me there was a statue of you at Fordham, and I was walking around the campus looking for it for about an hour, and I never found it?
You and O'Neill did the same thing.
That's kind of a story. But I believe you could have gone to Harvard.
I don't think so. I made the right move.
You didn't want to leave the Bronx. Everything you do is in the Bronx, so you just didn't want to go.
You're absolutely right. Do you think there's a problem right now with free agency? It looks like in baseball, the best guys are going to get paid. That's just the truth. And the guys that are just under the best guys are going to have to sweat a little bit. It happened last year, and I think it's happening again this year.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the case. I wrote about this today in the Post. There are 156 players who played Major League games last year who were still waiting for a job. Now, a lot of them didn't play a full season and probably will not get a job at the Major League level, but 60 or 70 of them are still waiting, and we have basically a little over 3 weeks to go before pitchers and catchers report. One agent complained to me that only the top 5 guys are going to get huge contracts now, and of course that's a bit of hyperbole, and he said top 5. He didn't mean 5%. He meant like Soto, Ohtani, Judge, those guys.
Right.
I don't think it's that bad. Certainly, and I think there's a little bit of groupthink going on. I think somebody who goes the other way and tries to get the best relievers and figure out something different might actually do better. Just like I think if you get Alonso on a good deal, go ahead and sign him. But it does seem like almost all the GMs are of the same mind that the starting pitchers are all very valuable, even though they no longer throw 9 innings, certainly, or most of them, other than Logan Webb and Zach Wheeler, they don't throw 8 innings, and other than Cole and a few others, they don't even throw 7 innings, yet their prices are all way up, and it feels like a lot of other players' prices are way down. And, I know there are a lot of anxious players out there and trying to figure it out, but it does feel like the money has moved to the top and to the rotation, and everybody else is struggling.
One of the guys that has to feel a little bit nervous right now is Santander. He hit 44 home runs last year for the Orioles, and I'm not quite sure that I could see the landing spot for him where he's going to make huge money on a long-term deal.
Well, I mean, Toronto's got to sign somebody at some point, and they do appear to be one of the final 3 teams or maybe even 2 teams for Sasaki. Just reading tea leaves at this moment, with them getting international bonus money to spend, they obviously feel they have a chance as this is coming down to the wire, maybe decided very, very soon. So they've got that going for them, but, I mean, they need to do a lot. They finished 14 games under last year. That's pretty bad. They have not won a playoff series of this regime in 9 years. They should be better than this. They should do better than this. They should be able to get somebody to come. I mean, obviously, they tried for Ohtani. They tried for Soto. They tried for Burns. But, I mean, you don't have to, only get the grade A-plus player. There's plenty of A players out there still, and that includes Bregman, Alonso, and Santander. And it seems like they've dabbled with all 3. All of them could fit. I mean, I don't think you signed Bregman and Alonso, but one or the other, and certainly Santander. They need offense. They've lost Semien. They lost Lourdes Gurriel. They've lost Teoscar. They went for defense, and that was not the right move, as it turned out. Kevin Kiermaier's a fine player, but you need to score some runs, and they need to do something about that, and certainly should sign one of these players, at least between Bregman, Alonso, and Santander. And those 3 stars that are still left. And I think ultimately Bregman will get a nice long deal, but I'm not sure, that the slugger is not beloved like they used to be. So Santander and Alonso are going to ultimately, it looks like, be disappointed with what they get. But to me, you can get a star player like that on a reasonable deal. Go ahead and do it. Somebody should.
We're talking with John Heyman of the New York Post here on the Michael Kay Show. Let's double back to the Mets for a moment. If Alonso leaves, right, like that's the tea leaves say that it will happen, and the Mets don't get another big name guy, and they improve the bullpen, and they go with Vientos at first, and then any combination of 3 kids at third, you do have to wonder, even though they got Soto, the big prize, are they A, better than last year? I would say they probably are, but B, are they on the outside looking in the playoff picture with the great teams in the West, and you've got the Phillies still, and I don't think the Braves are done at this point. Don't the Mets have to do more if they let Alonso go?
I would certainly think so, and they certainly seem to be concentrating on the pen. There's so many good relievers left. I think basically 85% of the top relievers are still on the board, including Tanner Scott, who's a lefty, would be a great pairing with Diaz at the back end there. That would be huge for them. I'm kind of with you. I think they're maybe slightly better. I think they overachieved to some degree last year. Their payroll is now down $70 million from where it was last year. They're basically tied with the Braves for the payroll that's dipped the most. And I get, obviously, Scherzer and Verlander, McCann came off the books, and at least to this point, Alonso obviously off the books. So there should be money to spend, and I'm just not sure. I mean, to me, Santander is a better fit for Atlanta than he is for the Mets.
Right.
He's an outfielder, not a first baseman, and I think the Mets are pretty well stocked in the outfield at this point. So I'm not. If they don't turn around and repivot and go for Alonso, I'm not sure what they do offensively. And they're going to be a little better, certainly with Soto, but. I always believe that it's good to have somebody behind Soto who's an established slugger. Obviously, you're not going to get an Aaron Judge. And I mentioned this to a Met person at one point, and he said basically the only way Soto can really be protected in the lineup is if you have Judge or Ohtani. Otherwise, or maybe Freeman, they're all going to pitch around him anyway. Alonso isn't, Alonso's great, but he's not Soto, and you're going to be pitching around Soto, no matter who's behind him, other than Judge or Ohtani. So that's the way they felt about it. That's the way they feel about it. I don't know. To me, they had an opportunity here, maybe still do, a little bit of an opening, I don't know, to really put a dynamic offense together at a very reasonable rate. I mean, we don't know that those numbers are exactly right. They may be, but it's not going to be crazy money, that's for sure. So, it's easy for me to. It's my job to spend billionaires' money, but they're down $70 million. If you give Alonso, let's just say 30 round number, and you give Scott 15, you still lop off the payroll, and you have a much better offense, a much better bullpen, and you're a better team. I'm still concerned about the rotation, but look, I mean, Stearns did such a great job last year between Severino and Minaya that, I'm going to have to give him a little leeway on that. I just wonder if Montas is right for New York, if Holmes can convert to a starter. I think there are a lot of questions in that rotation.
Absolutely. Great stuff, John. Have a great weekend. We thank you for joining us, as always.
You too, Michael. Anytime.
All right. That's John Heyman of the New York Post. You have to read him every day. He's on top of everything, and that was his take on the Alonso situation. Coming up, we'll play a little hit and run, and then in the second hour of the show, we'll definitely dive into what I believe is the best weekend in the NFL during the season, and that's this upcoming weekend with the two doubleheaders, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. Hey, it's Michael K. Not sleeping? Well, it could be your mattress. And I'm here to tell you, my friends at PC Richard & Son use a 4-step mattress fitting process to make sure your new bed fits you perfectly. Right now, save big on Sealy, Tempur-Pedic, and Stearns & Foster, and you'll get $300 cash back instantly to use on anything else in the store. So do what I do. Get to PC Richard & Son, the local company you could trust for your new mattress.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton bedding from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and breathable sheets. You'll experience pure comfort on night 1 and feel your bedding get softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first order at bollandbranch.com with code SPORTS15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. This is Hit and Run.
Oh, yeah, they love it. From Seattle to Miami to every part on the globe, people listening on the ESPN New York app. They love Hit and Run. They write letters about it. They're constantly reaching out. Please play it more. Put more Hit and Run signs on. So here we are on a Friday. Do you know that there was a French woman who sent Brad Pitt, or someone she thought was Brad Pitt, $850,000? And she kind of got catfished in a way. It really wasn't Brad Pitt, but it was somebody posing as Brad Pitt who said that he was in a medical emergency and, kept asking her for money, and she sent the equivalent of $850,000 to him. How could you be so dumb? How could you be so gullible? I would almost feel sorry for the woman, but I don't, because I don't feel sorry for people that are dumb. Why would she think that Brad Pitt, one of the most successful actors of all time, a box office magician, would need a citizen that he never met to send him $850,000 for medical care? When you consider the amount of people within our world that are simply not bright, it's scary. So we talked about this a lot yesterday. Bob Uecker passes away at the age of 90, and it was calculated, I believe, by the MLB Network that, Uecker he broadcasted 3.5% of all the games ever played in Major League Baseball. That's amazing. 3.5% broadcasted by Bob Uecker. Happy birthday goes out today to Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks coach. You know that Tom is 67 years old. Knicks play the Timberwolves tonight. That should be good. We're waiting on whether or not Cat is going to play with the bad thumb. I'm going to the game, taking my son. I can't wait for that. But Knicks and the Timberwolves tonight. Tibbs' 67th birthday. So it came out tonight, or yesterday, that Tom Brady, according to his agent Don Yee, it's his longtime agent, I think he was talking with Front Office Sports, he said he is committed to the Fox deal. He is not leaving the Fox deal. He is not leaving after this year when they do the Super Bowl. So he's owed 10 years, $375 million. Now, everybody and their mother knows that this is a conflict of him being a partner in the LA or Las Vegas Raiders and playing a role in the interviewing of their GM and their coach. He should not be doing the games. But I think it's a great play by Yee and Brady. I'm not leaving this job. If you don't like it, well, then you fire me and you give me the remaining $375 million. So Brady said he's having a great time, according to Yee, and he's going to complete this contract. How does it look? Think about it, because this weekend, he's going to be doing the Washington at Detroit game. That's on Saturday at 8 p.m. on Fox. He has already convinced Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of Detroit, to interview with the Raiders, and there's word that he was part of the interview as well. Is he going to tell his viewers that? Is Kevin Burkhardt going to have to do that? There's so many cross lines here, it doesn't make sense. We talk about Pete Alonso and how he kind of misread the market. Well, let's talk about Nick Pivetta. Can we do that? Would you like to do that, everybody? Nick Pivetta. Last year, he was 6-12 with a 4.14 ERA. Did that for the Red Sox. And the Red Sox, at the end of the year, gave him a $21.05 million qualifying offer, which means he could have accepted that and got $21.05 million for the upcoming season. Or he could have turned it down and taken a foray into free agency. Well, he elected to become a free agent, turned down the money. Now, once you get offered a qualifying offer, you also have a draft pick compensation attached to you. So that makes it less likely for a team to sign somebody who's not unbelievably great to a contract and also give up a draft pick. Again, he was 6-12, 4.14. For his career, 56-71. The most he ever made in a season was $7.5 million. And he turned down essentially triple that for 1 year because he thought there was more money as a free agent. Let's see. From every single account that I could look into, he has not even been made an offer yet. How could people and their agents be so delusional? How about this for good news, everybody? Dick Vitale. He has not done a game because of his throat problems and the cancer that he's been battling. He has not done a game in almost 2 years on ESPN. He is going to return to the airwaves on January 25th at 4:30 on ESPN to help broadcast the Duke against Wake Forest game. I am so thrilled for him. He's gone to the same doctor that performed my vocal surgery as well, Dr. Steven Zeitels in Boston. He's a genius, the guy. And he just cleared Dick Vitale that he could go back on the air, and Dick Vitale will on January 25th, 4:30 on ESPN. And we finish with this, everybody. The Rangers won yesterday against Utah, so they go out west on what could have been a very, very difficult road trip. 6 available points for them, and they got 5 of the 6 points. And it seems like the worm has turned. Is it too late? No, I don't think it's too late. They could sneak into the playoffs, and they could do damage. When you have a goaltender like that, you could do damage. So congratulations to the Rangers. 5 out of 6 points on a West Coast swing. And the 1 point that they lost, they blew a lead with about 1:30 left, and then they lost in overtime, so they just got a point there against the Avalanche. But good for the Rangers, 5 of 6 with last night's Utah win. Oh, we got a big football weekend coming up. Big, big. How could you not like it? It's bettable, although some of the lines are strange. And we got other football news as well. So stick around. We're taking you into the weekend. We're leading you into Don Hahn and Rosenberg. And I think you're going to want to be a part of it. It's that important. It's that big. It's that great. If you're able, please help people affected by the California wildfires in 2025. Donate at redcross.org/ESPN. They'll help the Red Cross respond and help people recover. K, right here on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Tracks.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV. Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your New Mexico Chevy dealer.
This winter, take a steakcation at Outback Steakhouse. Enjoy delicious Canberra chopped steak and a red wine glaze. Savor a flavorful bloomin' French onion sirloin. Or sink your teeth into a sizzling 18-ounce bone-in ribeye with signature spices. It's better than a staycation at home.
Dad, I thought we were taking a steakcation, not a staycation!
Enjoy your steakcation for a limited time at Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Welcome back to the show. You love football, then you love this weekend. I mean, Texans at Chiefs, Commanders at Lions, Rams at Eagles, Ravens at Bills. Now, of the 4, and I'm excited for all 4 of them, probably the least is Texans at Chiefs. So if I'm gonna list them in the order in which I'm really into it, I would believe that it would be the Ravens and the Bills would be first. Then I believe the Commanders at the Lions are second, the Rams at the Eagles third, and the Texans at the Chiefs are fourth. Now, before we get to breaking down these games, there are a couple of storylines that go along with it. And before we even get to those storylines, the great Aaron Rodgers spoke again yesterday on the McAfee show. And I have not been a fan of Aaron. I don't think that that's any secret for those that have listened to me with Don and Peter. I think he is overly impressed with himself. He is the worst kind of smart person. In my opinion, he's not as smart as he thinks, and acts as if he's an authority on everything, even over those that might know the subject better. I guess if you're going to be that guy, you might as well be that guy with confidence. And for a long time, I was of the opinion, you know what, there's no way you bring him back if you're the Jets. And he made it pretty clear, after talking with Woody, that it was going to be left up to the GM that's hired and the coach that's eventually hired. And that makes sense. Now, I truly believe that Rodgers wants to play. I don't think he's content with ending the career that he's had the way he did, although the final game was beautiful with the 4 touchdowns. So you take away the extracurricular nonsense that he brings along with him and just try to look at him as a player. Now, I don't think he's the player that he once was. He's not the multiple MVP winner. He's not that guy. Time has certainly taken its toll. I think the Achilles injury took its toll. I think he was banged up even more during the beginning of the season. That's why he didn't go downfield as much with passes, all of those things. But toward the end of the year, when you could see that he was feeling better and he was more sure of his health, he played closer to the quarterback that we thought he was going to be. So there's a part of me that says, if I'm taking that job, do I want Aaron Rodgers back? Now, any coach that comes in or GM that comes in, they have to be of the mindset that they're strong enough and their program is good enough and their culture is put in with such force and determination that it could overcome Rodgers being a little bit of a nudnik when he talks. So when you think that, isn't he the best way to go for your quarterback next year? Now, you have Tyrod Taylor signed for another year, and that's a nice fallback, and it's also a great backup for a guy that's going to be 42 next December. But he's going to play most of the season at 41. And there's a part of me that keeps coming back to this, that I think I might bring him back. With the 7th pick in the draft, they are not in position to select a quarterback that's going to make much of a difference. Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, teams have gotten quarterbacks in the 3rd round or the 6th round that have become generational. Yeah, those are outlier stories. Those are not stories that happen all the time. You need a high draft pick, and you need to nail that pick. I don't think the Jets are getting a quarterback with the 7th pick in the draft, in a quarterback-weak draft. And then when you look at who could be available, if you get Kirk Cousins, who's younger than Aaron Rodgers, but didn't have the season that Aaron Rodgers had, do you want him? No. There's a big number attached to that. Do you want Sam Darnold back? I think the answer is no. Russell Wilson? Again, the answer is no. So there aren't that many quarterbacks that are available. Would you make a trade for J.J. McCarthy? Yeah, but I don't think the Vikings are going to do that. So it comes down to, without any maneuvering, Aaron Rodgers or Tyrod Taylor. Now, one thing that you have to weigh into this, and this certainly became a story late, if you keep Aaron Rodgers for one more year, are you driving Garrett Wilson out? Because if you are, I think the decision is then made. I'd rather have Garrett Wilson than Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson long-term than Aaron Rodgers for that 1 year. And Garrett Wilson is very, very close with Tyrod Taylor. But if you could convince Garrett Wilson this is just for 1 year, then we're going to transition to somebody else, and he's okay with it and doesn't demand a trade, I think the way to go is probably to keep Aaron Rodgers. What do you think? If you're a Jet fan, I know you're listening out there, Ira. I don't think you want him back. I think there's a lot of Jet fans that would want him back. Maybe I've softened because there's been some time between the stuff that he says that annoys me and now. Although yesterday he had to come in with another politically tinged statement that, you know, if RFK Jr. is before Congress in question, he's going to make them look like idiots. This is stuff that you really don't need out of your athletes. You just don't. You just don't. And he gives you too much of that. He gives you a headache. He really does. But I'm going to put all that aside. What can he do on the field? And toward the end of the year, he showed that in the right situation, and this is doing it on a team that essentially wasn't coached. They weren't coached. if he's got a good coach and a good offensive philosophy, I think he could be a plus for the Jets. What do you think? Again, you're the co-host of the show. 1-800-919-3776. Now, leading from that quarterback query to another, the game that excites me the most this weekend is the Ravens and the Bills. If you sit back and you take a 30,000-foot view of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, who would you take as your quarterback? All things being equal, who would you take as your quarterback? Now, I'd say that midway through this season, to me, it would have been a slam dunk that it's Josh Allen. Because I think Josh Allen is a better thrower than Lamar Jackson. But my opinion over the last 5-6 weeks has started to come back a bit toward Lamar. Because a guy that I looked at as a guy that made everything happen athletically and could run with anyone, and Josh Allen could run too. Lamar Jackson's now a really good passer. The one thing that concerns me, though, with Lamar is the ability to win a big game. Now, Josh Allen's lost some big games as well. He hasn't played poorly in them, though. Lamar played very well last week against Pittsburgh. I thought he looked great. Thought he looked absolutely great. And that keeps pushing me maybe a little bit leaning toward him. As great an athlete as Josh Allen is, Lamar Jackson is a better athlete. And the big separator between those two, at least for me over the years, has been their throwing ability. And now Lamar's throwing ability is about equal to Josh's. Maybe a smidge below, but his running is better than Josh's. So how does he perform in these big games? As you get closer to the Super Bowl, he usually lays an egg. And then you look at Josh Allen. In 8 playoff games at home, he's 6-2 with 17 TDs and 3 interceptions. He's a really nice big game quarterback. Neither one of them has won a Super Bowl yet. And maybe that's the ultimate deciding factor. Maybe. But that's why the sidebar of that game is even more fascinating than the game. These are the two guys that are going to finish 1-2. I don't know which one is going to be 1 in the MVP voting. I thought for a long time it was going to be Josh Allen. I love people that compare, Josh Allen's numbers to Rodgers' numbers. Oh, they were remarkably similar. They leave out the running part of it. That's the separator. Josh Allen's tough, he's smart, plays in bad weather. There's going to be bad weather. It's going to be bad weather on 6:30 on Sunday at Highmark Stadium. I can't wait for that game. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Ryan in West Orange. Ryan.
Hey, what's going on, Michael?
How you doing?
Speak to you. First-time caller.
Oh, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, what's going on? I agree with you that Aaron Rodgers the Jets should run it back with Aaron Rodgers because there's no better alternative out there right now. You have a win-now talented roster. You improve a little bit in the draft with the D-line, O-line, the trenches, and you get an actual coach with experience that can put down a philosophy, follow it, and he's gonna go through with it because that's what the Jets were missing this year. When they fired Saleh, everything was strained on the coaching staff, and that was it. It was a done deal after that.
And you know what else? I didn't even mention, Roy. You're going to get a huge cap hit, a huge, gigantic cap hit when it comes to whether he stays or whether he goes. And we thank you for the phone call. It's just amazing, though, that the cap hit might be worse if he leaves. And then you're going to be kind of hamstrung to get that quarterback that you need anyway. So since you have a quarterback that put up a decent year, which is what he did, whether you like him or not, he did put up a decent year, then you've got a situation where isn't it better keep him and that cap actually works for you rather than not bring him back and then the cap doesn't work for you. You're still hit with dead cap money. I don't want dead cap money. If I have to spend a lot of the cap, I want the guy to perform for me, and Rodgers will perform. What would really infuriate me, though, if I was a new GM and the new coach, that you decide you want him back, and then he plays his little reindeer games. Well, I've got to think about it. I got to put my feet in the sand, and I got to see before I make a No. You got to tell us right now, you're playing or not. Because by the time the GM and the coach are hired, it's going to be over a month since the season ended. You should know by then. The aches and pains, the bruises, they're all gone. It's got to be a quick yes or a quick no so we can pivot. Because he's played this game before. Brett Favre played this game before. Brett Favre played it with the Jets. He played it with the Packers. Aaron Rodgers played it with the Packers. And a lot of what he's done is mirrored what Favre did. He can't play that game with the Jets. That's when I cut bait immediately. I'm still thinking about it. All right, you're out. No, we don't have time for you to just think about it. You're out. You're absolutely out. Let's go to Rashad in the Bronx. Rashad.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I say the Jets definitely running back with Rodgers. If you notice, all right, so if you notice, in the beginning of the season, yes, he wasn't thrown down the field. He wasn't comfortable in the pocket. Tyron Smith was so awful this season that Rodgers was getting hit a lot, and he wasn't comfortable in the pocket. When they switched over to Fashanu at left tackle, notice he started playing much better. He started throwing more down the field. He started getting more comfortable in the pocket. He started playing better. So they should definitely run it back with Rodgers. And he's 1 year after the Achilles surgery.
Right.
So he's going to be better, too. So run it back with Rodgers. Hopefully the defense was awful this season. That's another reason why the Jets was really, really bad. Defense, and the actual Rodgers is too much, and he's 41. He can't do too much.
No, and I also think, Rashad, I think that you nailed it. I think he was afraid to get hit. I think that he'd been banged up. He was fearful of the Achilles. And, he's 41 years old. He didn't want to get battered, and he wasn't getting great protection. And, again, what I would amplify to everybody about the Jets, that after Saleh was gone at 2-3, I really feel bad for Jeff Ulbrich because, from all accounts, he seems like a really great guy. Over his head when it came to being a head coach. Maybe one day he will be, but he wasn't ready for it. He was thrown into a situation, and that Jet team simply was not coached. The amount of penalties, the way they handled timeouts, the way they handled the clock, it was a joke. It was almost like playing street ball. They were not coached. And of all the major sports, the greatest effect of a coach on a team is in football. And they didn't have one. And somehow Rodgers got better, even with that bad situation. Let's go to Charlie in Allendale. Charlie.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good. What's up?
The coach is obviously a big decision, but this team has so many. I don't know what the direction of the team is. The GM, to me, is more important. They don't have a quarterback of the future, whether you keep Rodgers or not. They don't have a draft pick that's going to get you a good quarterback. You don't know if Wilson, he looked unhappy all year. DJ Reed's gone. Sauce Gardner, he got burnt all year, and when he wasn't getting burnt, he was committing penalties.
Yeah,
so
he took a step
I don't know
back.
what the future. I don't know what the future of the team is. I think the GM has a lot of work to do. There's so many questions on this team.
I would agree with you, Charlie, except that I would look at it this way. I think that they have more talent than you're saying because that talent was not utilized in the right way. So I think that, kind of the support is there to build off of. Yeah, DJ Reed's probably going to go. I worry about Sauce Gardner not being the great shutdown that we thought he was going to be. I worry about Wilson's unhappiness, but you got Hall, you got Wilson, you've got pieces there that are very, very good. But I agree with you. The GM and who they choose is going to be enormous. It's going to be enormous. First of all, it's got to be a GM that could work nice with Woody. That's important. It's got to be a GM that's going to be able to collaborate with the head coach. That's why it's important, I think, to get the GM first, then hire the head coach. I don't like it the other way around. Because then the GM almost becomes beholden to the coach. If the GM is there, and at least there could be a semblance of he's got something to say, about the head coaching hiring, although it's ultimately Woody's decision. I think that puts you more of a position of strength. Let's go to, Albert in Mawa. What's up, Albert?
Hey, Michael. How are you?
Good. You?
Good. Long-time listener, first-time calling. I do agree with you with Aaron Rodgers for sure. The team has a lot of talent, and running him back out there, I think, is the best solution. It's certainly if they get the right coach. And as for Garrett Wilson, he really is not going anywhere. Like, we have him under contract for another year, and then we can franchise him for a couple years if necessary. And I think once you start winning, his attitude totally changes. I mean, he played at Ohio State. On his high school team, maybe he lost a game or two. Like, the kid is not used to losing. And you come to an organization that loses, you got to turn it around. And once it's turned around, I think he'll fall into the process, fall into the system, and be a happy camper.
Well,
That's my thought.
Here's the one thing that I would push back on, Albert. Most people that play in the NFL, in high school, they never lost. They probably played in a pretty good college program. I mean, look at Malik Neighbors, and who lost more than he did this year. I think the unhappiness was I don't think he felt he was targeted enough by Rodgers, especially once Devontae Adams got there. That was a problem. I think there was a disconnect between Garrett and Rodgers, and that has to be worked out. And I don't think that there was strong enough coaching to get it worked out. Of all the candidates for Jet head coach, the one that said the thing that really impressed me the most, and I don't think he's the answer at coach, was what Rex Ryan said about Aaron Rodgers. The country club bending over backwards for this guy is going to end. We can't go on like that. I think the biggest mistake that was made that led to the season that the Jets had, and you're all going to jump me, and I'm fine with it. Bring it on. So what? I've got the whole weekend to recover. Is this. He should not have been allowed to miss the mandatory minicamp. By that one maneuver and not cracking down on it, Robert Saleh said, Rodgers is in control. Rodgers said, nobody tells me what to do. And please don't come with that nonsense. Well, he was at every other event during the offseason, even things that weren't mandatory. Great. Good. You get a gold star, a nice pat on the head. But the one that said mandatory, look it up in the dictionary. If you don't know what mandatory means, he skipped it to go on vacation. Not for surgery, not because a family member was sick, nothing like that. For a vacation. You can't tell me that vacation could not have been pushed off by 3 days. I refuse to believe it. That was the beginning of the end for this version of the Jets. It was the beginning of the end for Robert Saleh. It was the beginning of the end for Joe Douglas. That's where you have to take a step, sit him down and go, you got to be here, dude. I'm sorry, you got to be here. And I think that somebody like Rex and a strong head coach would tell him, you got to be here. I'm now your boss. You're not my boss, because Rodgers came here and the power shift was clear. Rodgers was running the show. He was more important and more powerful than Joe Douglas. He was more important and more powerful than Robert Saleh. If he comes back in a different way. He's the employee. He's not an employer. He's the worker. He's not the boss. And I know there's a certain amount of respect that goes with being a 20-year veteran in the NFL, and he deserves that respect. He does not deserve to be put well above anybody else and be allowed to do things that nobody else would be allowed to do. That's one of my fears. And I hope that if you hire a head coach, that the head coach has enough strength and fortitude to look at Rodgers and say, you do it my way or you don't do it at all. Let's go to Rob in the car. Rob.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. What's up, man?
I'm good. You are completely correct. I couldn't agree more with the fact that missing the mini camp was just the complete wrong thing to do. I mean, when you look how sloppy they looked on the field and how unput together they were, you could blame the coaching all you want, but Rodgers should have really taken the time to build up rapport with the guys in the offense. So
Absolutely.
I definitely agree with that.
I was stunned when it happened.
Yeah, it was. It's not a good look, and it's almost it just shows his arrogance more because he thinks you could just walk in and just do it.
Yep.
But yeah, I did want to get to the Jets as far as keeping him next year.
Okay.
I believe when you look at the landscape of the AFC playoffs this year, there's definitely some suspect teams that snuck in. So you look at Pittsburgh; they limped into the playoffs. The Chargers, I don't know about that. And then the Broncos, they're getting better, but in a word, they could be had. And also, I think a diabolical plan would be to trade for Tomlin, and then you definitely know Pittsburgh's not making the playoffs next year.
Well, again, I've said this. If you could trade for Tomlin for like a third or a fourth round draft pick, I'm all for it. I'm not giving up a first round or seventh pick of the draft for a coach. I'm just not. I'm just not, especially when there are so many coaches out there. How do we know that Aaron Glenn can't be better than Mike Tomlin? I mean, they've interviewed everybody and their mother for the head coaching position. You got to trade an asset that's so valuable to get a head coach? I'm not doing it. I don't put Tomlin on the same level as Bill Parcells. You keep putting people, these are coaches that they traded draft picks for. He's not Bill Parcells. And if you listen to the show, you know I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. He's not good enough for me to give the 7th pick in the draft. He's just not. Now, if you want to have questions about the Jets, I've got questions. Why have you not interviewed Mike McCarthy yet? Why? I need an answer. I don't think Mike McCarthy is Vince Lombardi, but he's won a Super Bowl. He's a pretty good coach, and you don't have to give up a draft pick for him. How come you don't even interview him? And I still contend, why don't you interview Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson agreed to an interview with the Raiders. He wouldn't agree to an interview with the Jets. Why not? Why not? Why not interview him? Well, he doesn't fit what we're trying to do here. Oh, what? Win? Have a dynamic offense? I'm not saying give him the job, but unless he's told the Jets behind back channels, I have no interest, that's a different story. So the Jets trying to put lipstick on a pig. But Mike McCarthy? Really? You haven't reached out to him at all? Tannenbaum and Spielman of the 33rd team, they've got to recommend to Woody. At least you got to talk to Mike McCarthy. You interviewed a coach that is about 40 games under 500 in the college ranks in Loxley. Why? You interviewed him, but you have not interviewed Mike McCarthy. That seems a little bit odd. I will break down more of the playoffs coming up, but get ready to elevate your game this NFL playoff season with FanDuel. Because right now, all customers can get a no-sweat NFL same-game parlay for any game. Just place a 3-leg NFL same-game parlay, and you'll get bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. Same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Build your home or choose from one of the popular SGPs pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. So what are you waiting for? Get your no-sweat same-game parlay on America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/K. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max wager $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply, include token expiration. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Now, for help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, that's 467-369.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, what the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass f- So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
So it's a new year, 2025, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? How am I going to build something for myself? The best time to start your new business is right now, and Shopify is how you're going to make it happen. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, allowing you to focus on the important stuff, like growing your business. What happens if you don't act now? Will you regret it? What if someone beats you to the idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/network.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, if you're able, please help people affected by the California wildfires in 2025. Donate at redcross.org/ESPN. Help the Red Cross respond and help people recover. You know, with the new show, we're trying to do different things and get you engaged in different ways. And, you seem to all like hit and run. Debunk the Junk has been a lot of fun, at least for me. I hope it is for you. We have something that's probably going to debut next week at some point, and I'll just give you a little tease of it. It's called Flip It and Reverse It, and it's in the great words of Missy Elliott. And what that means is that, every segment, every now and then, what we're going to do is we're going to flip it and reverse it. You're going to call in, and I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask you questions about what you think about sports. I'm going to ask you questions about life. I'm going to flip it on you and reverse it. So it's not going to be me, you asking me questions. We're going to line you up, and I'll see if you're interesting enough. Maybe if you're good at flip it and reverse it, one day you could host a radio show. You never know. Right? That's right. So we're looking forward to that. Look forward to that, and the name of that segment again will be Flip It and Reverse It. But you have to say it like Missy, because Missy says that great. It's one of the great lines in a song. Just flip it and reverse it. So that'll be a new segment on the K Show. Coming up at 3, Don Hahn and Rosenberg. Don LaGreca and Alan Hahn will be manning the helm today. Peter has an announcement to make today. I think he's going to join the show at some point. So you'll definitely want to hear that. So, again, that's from 3 to 7 right here on the great flame-throwing 880 ESPN New York. 1-800-919-3776. Texans at the Chiefs. That's 4:30 on Saturday. That'll be on ESPN and ABC. Washington at Detroit. That's Saturday, 8 p.m. on Fox. Then we shift to Sunday. Eagles hosting the Rams. That's 3 p.m. on Sunday on NBC. And the Ravens at the Bills at 6:30 on CBS. That is your quadruple header. 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. Best NFL weekend of the season. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Matt in Toms River.
Hey, good afternoon, Michael. How you doing, sir?
Good, Matt. What's up?
I'm doing well. Congrats on the new show. I always looked at it like when you guys were all together, when you were with Rosenberg and LaGreca, it was kind of like there was a fourth bar stool open at the bar, and you guys were always so welcoming to let me come and sit and have a conversation. So I appreciate you keeping up that tempo.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That's nice of you to say.
Yeah, so I wanted to tell you, I wanted to give you kudos. I really got hooked on Landman. You made that reference about it last week, talking about Jerry Jones. So I went online and checked it out.
What'd you think? Tell me what you thought.
Well, first of all, I immediately got hooked on the show. I didn't even know about it, so thanks for putting that out there. Mm-hmm. And of course, I had to binge the whole thing, within a few days, and I got all caught up. And I paid special attention because I remember how much how you took the time to talk about Jerry. And man, this guy was sincere. Let me tell you, he does have a career in acting if he wanted one. And I agree with how emotional he got, and it kind of made me emotional. Just watching him recite that and talk and seeing John Hamm in the state that he was in, and how what's really important, how Jerry, following his kids, led him to basically be a billionaire and get the Cowboys. I thought it was a really cool story, so I wanted to say thanks a lot for making that recommendation to us.
You got it. Thank you, Matt. I mean, I was just so struck by how natural he was on camera. And, I mean, he can't be that great of an actor. I mean, that was like Meryl Streep level. So he had to be talking about his own life. And he was talking about, going into business and having your kids alongside you. And, when your life is over, that's going to be the important thing for you. And, I mean, he's talking and he's getting tears in his eyes. And he was amazing. So at this point, the way he's run the Cowboys over the last 20 years, he's a better actor than he is an owner and a GM. But, boy, that was good. That was really, really good. Let's go to Ira in Staten Island. What's up, man?
Hey, what's happening, Michael? Looking forward to the games this weekend.
Yeah.
And your show's been outstanding.
Thank you.
The Rodgers thing, it's so complex, and I can't wait for this thing to play itself out. But I break it into 3 or 4 phases. As a team, the money situation. Number 2, I'd be shocked if Glenn doesn't get the job and you're going to get a rookie GM. You got 2 rookies. And I don't know if it's fair, and you could question then the head coach is not the man for the job, to give 2 rookies, a guy like Rodgers who's so complex to have to deal with. And number 3, does Rodgers even want to play for those guys? And then the last part is, after, let's say they come back, he has a good year, they make the wild card, then my biggest question is, great, you brought him back, the new coach got his feet wet, they're going forward. And then Rodgers, you could bring him back for a 4th year at 43. So I'm more concerned about 26 than I am in 25.
But I would agree with you. It doesn't seem like Woody has anything invested whether he comes back or not. If I had a guess, I'd say Woody probably doesn't want him back, but he will accede to the demands of his coach and his GM. But, Ira, if the coach doesn't want him, then you got to let him go. But I need to have a better option than Tyrod Taylor. Who's going to be your quarterback next year?
Okay, this is how I look at it. This guy Dart out of Ole Miss, I'm not saying he's a starting quarterback. He sits behind Taylor if you get your hands on him.
Right.
If not, I want Justin Fields. I just think Justin Fields in the right situation, I think he has better upside than most of the quarterbacks in this draft.
Well, I don't hate that. I think Justin Fields, formerly of the Bears, and he backed up Russell Wilson with the Steelers. But, I mean, do you really think he's going to shake loose? Because I don't think Russell Wilson's coming back to the Steelers. So they have all this invested in Justin Fields sitting behind him. I always thought that he was sitting behind him waiting for Russell Wilson to have that 1 year, and then he would take over. But if he's available, that's the way to go. But I would not force Rodgers on a coach or a GM if they don't want him. No. The only way I bring him back is if the coach and the GM want him back. And the only reason I think why they would want him back is because what's better? What's better out there? You can't tell me, although he's a great backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor is better than Aaron Rodgers, even at 41. So who else is better? I don't think Sam Darnold's better. You saw Sam Darnold without protection, how he played against the Lions and then against the Rams. He was dreadful. Now, he did win 14 games, but I think that all things being equal with a good offensive line, you can't tell me that Rodgers isn't better than Sam Darnold. He's better than Kirk Cousins, the way Cousins played this year. Cousins lost his job to Penix. So you've got to present me with a better option. You really do. You have to present me with a better option at quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, and I'm all ears. Because as you all know, I'm not in love with Aaron Rodgers. But what's fair is fair. The way he played at the end of the year was better than the way he played at the beginning of the year. Let's go to Damien and Vernon. What's up, Damien?
Hey, Mike.
What's up?
Not much, man. First time I'm calling on your new show.
Thanks, man.
Long-time listener.
Thank you.
The only thing I have to say is I agree with you on bringing Rodgers back. I mean, what better option do the Jets have? So I agree with you on that. The only thing I got to push back on you is when you said Rodgers had a good season. There's no way you can say he was good. I mean, you, Don, and Peter pretty much pointed out all his flaws throughout the season. And then the record shows they weren't no good. I mean, granted, he has some obstacles, with the offensive line, the coaches. I'll give all of that. But all in all, his season was bad.
No,
The
see,
start was better than the rest of the remaining of the season.
See, but that's where I push back. He was far from great. And as I said at the beginning of this, he's not anywhere close to the multiple MVP winner. He's not that guy anymore. So he didn't have a great year. He didn't even have a very good year. He was good. It was good. And at the beginning of the year, he wasn't throwing downhill at all. Passes were like 6 yards. Seemed like he was very skitterish in the pocket. Didn't really have it. I saw a better quarterback at the end of the year when he felt healthier and he felt more sure of the Achilles. And you can't say he tried to make it out to be nothing, that he was willing to come back last year in December and, the same year he got hurt. That was all pie in the sky nonsense. But we see what an Achilles does to a good quarterback. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He wasn't this year with Atlanta. He just wasn't. But you can't say he had a bad year. If you look at his statistics, it wasn't bad. It was okay. I'd say he was anywhere from okay to good. He wasn't bad. And he certainly wasn't great, and he wasn't very good. So if it was a steak, it'd be medium, a little under medium. His year was not well done. It just wasn't. So there's a lot of things to worry about, especially they had 5 opportunities last time he had the ball to win the game, and he didn't do it. So those things told me he's not the quarterback that he once was. All I'm saying, Damian, who are you going to get for the 2025 season that's better? That's the only thing that you have to look at. Tell me who's better. All right, we'll make our picks. They were so good last year. So good last week. The 6-pack turned into 2 and 4. It's an embarrassment to me and my family and generations of the K family to come. I'm sorry I gave you those picks. I'll try to do better coming up next. Hey, maybe the offseason, but every season is Bigelow Tea season. You know I'm picky about what I drink, especially in days I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow Tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. I know what keeps me going. Look no further than my cup of Bigelow Tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow Tea and tea proudly. Bigelow Tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton bedding from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and breathable sheets. You'll experience pure comfort on night 1 and feel your bedding get softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first order at bowlandbranch.com with code SPORTS15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, so we got a big quadruple header. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday with the right to play for the AFC and NFC Championship next week. All right, let's go in order of the games. Texans at the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs had last week off. It's always a big deal when Andy Reid gets an opportunity to essentially have a bye and have an extra week to prepare. The Texans have a short week, so this is 4:30 Saturday. The Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites. Patrick Mahomes is 6-0 in divisional round games. The Chiefs are good against the run, so there's going to be a lot of third and longs for C.J. Stroud. 8.5 is a big number. 8.5 is a big number. A lot of people thought that the Chargers were going to roll over the Texans. But I think it was more that it was a really, really bad game for the Chargers, especially their quarterback, rather than the Texans playing out of their mind. Chiefs are the Chiefs. And I know what Don has been saying, that they could be had. No, I think that every team that's left could be had. But I'll go with the team that has the pedigree, that has been there before, and then knows how to win big games. So I think the Chiefs are going to win this one by about 10. I worry about a backdoor cover for the Texans, but I'm going with Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to have to convince me otherwise to bet against the Chiefs. So I'll give the 8.5 to the Texans. Washington at Detroit. You know, Washington with a big win. Detroit had the bye with the best record in the NFC. This is a huge Zaftig number. 9.5 points for the Lions. It's Saturday, 8 p.m. on Fox. Again, convince me otherwise to bet against the Lions. And they're going to get Montgomery back. So with Jahmyr Gibbs, that makes a great running game. They've got, obviously, a great passing game. This could be the manifest destiny that Detroit's going to end up in the Super Bowl. I think Washington is a year ahead of schedule, probably 2 years ahead of schedule. Their quarterback is very impressive. Again, the 9.5 scares me. But I look at Detroit, a raucous crowd in Motown. I think Detroit's going to win this one by 2 touchdowns. So I take the Lions over the Commanders in this one. Let's move to Sunday. We have the Eagles hosting the Rams. It's not as big a number as you would think. It's just 6 points. The Eagles are 6-point favorites. It's 3 p.m. Sunday. That game is on NBC. The Eagles very quietly have won 13 of their last 14 games. And Jalen Hurts, although he has not had a great season, is very good in the postseason. He has had 158 consecutive passes without an interception in the postseason. That's the 7th longest streak in NFL history. That, to me, is a guy who steps up in the big moment. Now, the Eagles blocking up front, their offensive line is a big reason why they're great. It's way better than the Vikings. So the Rams just kept swarming on Sam Darnold, and they made him look like an amateur. They made him see ghost. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, the Eagles won 37-20 against the Rams. That was in November. And in that game, Barkley ran for 255 yards and 2 TDs in that game. And in that game, the Eagles also sacked Stafford 5 times. All of these things point to me that you got to go with the Eagles and give the 6 points. I think the Rams are ahead of schedule. I don't think anybody expected the Rams would be here, and here they are, 1 game away from playing for the NFC Championship. Eagles, given 6, I'll take them over the Rams. And finally, you got the Ravens and the Bills. Ravens are a 1-point favorite at Highmark Stadium. Both the Eagles game and the Rams game look like it's going to be played in inclement weather. Weather's going to get really cold. There's going to be snow involved as well. So the Ravens are 1-point favorites over the Bills, 6:30 on CBS. I told you this earlier. Josh Allen, 6-2, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 8 playoff games at home. The Bills are undefeated at home this season. Now, here's one number to consider, though. For the other side, Josh Allen is 0-3 straight up and against the spread as an underdog. Is 1 point really an underdog? But Vegas must see something because the Bills get 3 points just for playing in Buffalo. So they think that the Ravens are 4 points better than the Bills. Now, they met in September, and in that one, the Bills had a hard time stopping Derrick Henry. He had 199 yards. The Ravens won 35-10, but they didn't have Matt Milano. He's back. They're better defensively. And because of the weather, and because they always seem to be the bridesmaid, and because the Ravens have had trouble, particularly Lamar Jackson, the bigger the game gets in the playoffs, although last week he was phenomenal against the Steelers, I'm taking the Bills with the 1 point. So that's my 4-pack for the week, hopefully better than last week's 6-pack, where I was an embarrassing 2-4. I'll give it to you again. I'm giving 8.5, taking the Chiefs over the Texans. I'm giving 9.5, taking the Lions over the Commanders. I'm giving 6 points and taking the Eagles over the Rams. And I'm taking the 1 point and taking the Bills over the Ravens. Again, it is the best football weekend of the NFL year. Hey, if you're able, please help people affected by the California wildfires in 2025. Donate at redcross.org/ESPN to help the Red Cross respond and help people recover. Now, I do want to tell you about Monday. Monday's MLK Day. And in the past, we've been off on that day. We're not going to be off because of the new time on this show. So I'm going to be on from 1 until 2:30 on Monday. So make sure to tune in, and we'll lead you right into the Nick pregame. The Nick pregame show is at 2:30. Then the Nick game will be at 3. So once again, do not think because it's MLK Day that we are off. The afternoon drive show will be off because of the Nick game. We will not. We will be working. We're looking forward to it. We'll have a big NFL weekend to unpack. Knicks and the Timberwolves tonight. You can hear it right here on 880. We're excited about that. I'm actually going to the game with my son, so it should be fun. Hopefully, Cat will play, but we'll see. I think it's unlikely. I've had another great week. Show number 10 in the new iteration of the Michael K. Show. Hope you're enjoying it. Next week, we're going to debut Flip It and Reverse It, where we interview you. It's going to be fun. In the words of Billy Joel, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again. And coming up, Don Hahn and Rosenberg. Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN. Suck it up and like it. The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Trax.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your New Mexico Chevy dealer.